Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem. You may be seated. Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Minister of Tourism and Member of Parliament for St. James East Central, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, Mayor of Montego Bay, His Worship, Councillor Richard Vernon, other councillors, caretakers, and other political representatives, the NHT's board chairman, Mr. Linval Freeman, the NHT's managing director, Mr. Martin Miller, and the management and staff of the NHT, our development partners, West Indies Home Contractors Limited, led today by Chairman Mr. Peter Meledo and Chief Executive Officer Mr. Marvin Campbell. Let me acknowledge as well Chairman of the ICD Group, Mr. Joseph Matalan, and other WICON and ICD Group representatives, heads of agencies, representatives of our utility providers, representatives of the St. James Municipal Corporation, or partner mortgage institutions, and members of the business community. Pastor of the Bethel Ark Pentecostal, Reverend Edmondo Souza, residents of Barrett Hall and neighboring communities, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant afternoon and welcome to our groundbreaking ceremony for the Barrett Hall Housing Development. My name is Dwayne Burbick, and it is my privilege and pleasure to guide you through the afternoon's proceedings, which will culminate in a groundbreaking exercise for what will be another NHT project. Today, we celebrate not just the construction of new homes, but the profound impact of homeownership on the lives of Jamaicans. Homeownership is more than a key to a door. It is a cornerstone of stability, security, and pride. It transforms lives, fosters thriving communities, and builds a foundation for future generations. And as we break ground today, we are laying the groundwork for dreams to be realized and for the community of Barrett Hall to continue to flourish. And as we customarily do on these occasions, our first order of business today is to bless the project, bless the function, and the construction efforts of the men and women who will work tirelessly here to create a place another set of Jamaicans will be proud to call home. At this time, I invite Pastor of the Bethel Ark Pentecostal Church, Reverend Edmondo Souza, to lead us in prayer and invocation. Please, let's welcome Reverend Souza.
Can we stand in the presence of the Lord? I greet the presence of Almighty God on this plot of ground. I greet my Prime Minister, Dr. Most Honorable Andrew Holness, ON, PC, MP, or Prime Minister of Jamaica, all members of Parliament, and every official present today. Let us pray. O Father, Lord of heaven and in earth, and of the universe, we come to you one more time, desiring divine guidance and blessing on this NHT and on this Barrett Hall housing development. Lord, as we break ground today, may this project be productive, successful, flawless, without stress from start to finish. May it serve its purpose to enhance lives of those who will inhabit and pass through. May each household say, as for me and my house, as for me and Jamaica, we will serve the Lord. May the land be prosperous. May the land be fat. No, Lord, we ask, cleanse it from every generational curse, crime, violence, poverty, and sickness. Purify now, cleanse, consecrate, and bless when we go and when we come in. And whatever we do in words or deeds today, bless us, O God, as a people. Bless our Prime Minister. In Jesus' name.
Thank you very much, Reverend Souza. Now, the journey here this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, was an interesting one. At one point in the journey, my colleague turned around to me and said, do you have a lot of material to talk about today? And indeed, the journey is somewhat perhaps a metaphor of the construction process. That it is not always smooth, right, Marvin? Right, Brian? Sometimes you come upon some difficult terrain, but you have to push through. But the end product, the actual housing units, are always beautiful. Similarly, for the prospective mortgager, and I see my NHT branch team over here, that sometimes the customer thinks they have all the paperwork, and Mrs. Newsom, Mrs. Millwood, they look at them and say, no, you need one more thing. Come back for me. So the journey here in terms of the actual road was perhaps a little bumpy. But the vista, ladies and gentlemen, was well worth it, right? Looking out. Oh, you not agree with me? Okay. I was beginning to wonder. The vista is indeed beautiful, and I'm already envious of the future homeowners here at Barrett Hall. Now it's time for our official welcome, and for that, please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome Chairman of the National Housing Trust, Mr. Linval Freeman.
Thank you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. You have always done a good job, as usual, right? And I must commend you. Prime Minister, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Minister of Tourism, Honorable Edmund Bartlett, His Worship the Mayor, Richard Vernon, other political representatives present, members of the NHT team led by Martin Miller, Chairman of the West Indies Home Contractors Limited, Peter Melhedo, CEO Marvin, and Chairman of the ICD Group, Joe, and I also see Vikram in the audience from the ICD Group. Ladies and gentlemen, I usually say today is the day that the Lord has made, and we rejoice in it, and we are very glad. As chairman of the NHT, I think one of my greatest pleasures, as you would know, is actually coming to break grounds and then following up and coming to hand out the keys. I think that's very important. And so it's my pleasure this afternoon to welcome you to the groundbreaking ceremony for the Barrett Hall Housing Project here in St. James, the second city. Today we are breaking ground for a project that will provide 1,560 new housing solutions. The project is a collaboration between the National Housing Trust and the developers, West Indies Home Contractors Limited, WICON, under the NHT Developers Program. This is the second project which we are breaking ground for under this project. Just a month ago, we broke ground in Manchester for the Mount Nelson Housing Development alongside contractor N&Fifth Construction Group. That project is expected to bring 1,758 new housing solutions to Jamaica. So we are actually counting as we break grounds into hundreds and we're going into thousands, as you would realize. The Developers Program is a strategic partnership between NHT, local and international developers, designed to increase the supply of affordable housing by leveraging the expertise and resources of the private sector. The NHT provides land, and in return, the developers design, finance, secure approval, and construct housing projects according to NHT's specification. And of course, we only enter into agreements with developers who have committed to complete solutions quickly. And I know Wicon has a track record of completing solutions very quickly and within a certain price point. This program is not about building houses. It's about creating communities. By partnering with private developers, the NHT will be able to roll out, and listen to this, over 8,000 units housing starts over the next 12 months. And we are very, very focused on getting that done. Engaging private developers in the business of affordable housing fosters innovation in construction techniques and materials, leading to more cost-effective and resilient housing solutions. The importance of this collaboration cannot be overstated. As we work towards our goal of providing affordable housing for Jamaicans, partnerships such as the Developers Program bridge the gap between demand and supply, ensuring that more families can achieve the dream of home ownership. While we build our housing program, we continue to expand our mortgage product offerings. And as announced by our Honorable Prime Minister in the budget debate, effective July 1, the NHT will roll out, in some instances, new mortgage products. And in other cases, we will be making improvements to existing ones with higher loan limits and more relaxed mortgage terms. The future residents of Barrett Hall will benefit from these improved mortgage arrangements, and others include deferred mortgages, which offer more flexible payment terms over the life of the loan, as well as the intergenerational and parent assist mortgage, which allows parents to partner with their children to make mortgage more affordable. In addition, the NHT continues to offer 100% financing for every NHT build scheme, where qualified contributors can access up to $15 million in financing from the NHG. Generally, NHT loans are provided at very low interest rate, as low as 0%. Right? And in some cases, NHT also provides what we call a home grant of up to $3.5 million. So if you're a contributor and you are accessing a loan, let's say, of 7.5, now gone to 9 million, in addition to that, you can get a home grant of 3.5 million if your financial circumstances so warrant it. We're also keen on accessibility. Here at Barrett Hall and in our upcoming developments, the NHT will continue to reserve units for persons with disabilities. The NHT will also make a special reservation of at least 10% of the housing solutions for adults who are 35 years and younger. I'll end here where I begin, by celebrating partnerships. That being said, I'd like to thank WICON for coming on board. And I should say, by speaking with the chairman, Peter Meledo, from time to time with his offside discussion, I'm aware of the tremendous effort that it took WICON to prepare for this groundbreaking ceremony today. And I'd like to commend you, Peter, and your team for doing a wonderful job so we could be here today. I also want to recognize and commend our construction and development team, led by Brian, in the great effort that you guys have made in putting this function together today. Finally, functions like this take a great effort to execute. And I would also like especially to acknowledge the planning team who diligently coordinated and planned today's ceremony. Every groundbreaking marks the moment when vision takes form, transforming ideas into reality and paving the way for new beginnings. I am truly looking forward to the transformation of Barrett Hall into a community of choice for Jamaicans to live, work, and do business, and also to return to hand out the keys to the homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Freeman spoke about partnership and how partnerships are a big part of what the NHT does. So from one chairman to another, from one project partner to another. Let me welcome at this time Chairman of West Indies Home Contractors Limited, WICON, Mr. Peter Meledo, to bring his remarks. Please make him welcome.
After just the mic after Linval there. I'm going to take protocol observed. Linval did a very good job of it, but I obviously have to special welcome to Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Minister, Your Worship, the NHT team led by Martin Miller, that you just heard from the chair. We have Team WICON, and I have to say, Prime Minister, when I came here, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, Marvin, maybe 3 weeks ago, and we were told we had a groundbreaking in about 3 weeks. I couldn't imagine that we'd get it ready like this. So Danuta, Da Costa, and your team, fantastic job. Really, really fantastic job. So home ownership is a powerful contributor to our economy, to the welfare and security of our people, and to the preservation of our environment. As a country, we have struggled to build enough affordable homes to meet the tremendous latent demand. This marital scheme represents an opportunity to provide, as Chairman said, 1,500 solutions, and is a linchpin of the developers program conceived by the NHT. And Linval, 8,000 houses in 12 months, I think that would be about 4 times what we've averaged over the last couple of years. So fantastic work to get that to happen. I think it's important to note that WICON has worked closely with the NHT and has been its most active partner over many years. Most recently to build 2,400 affordable homes at the estuary in St. James. And Minister, you were saying that we seem to be building a lot in your constituency, or your parish, should I say, and you're dead right there. And we also completed 800 two-bedroom units in the lovely hills of St. Catherine at Silversun with the NHT. So I think that speaks to the fact that public-private partnerships work, and they work by leveraging the best both sectors have to offer. In this case, the NHT is a premier provider of mortgages in Jamaica, and WICON, with over 65 years of experience in affordable housing, obviously knows a thing or two about developing these sites. So we look forward to working with the NHT to make the dreams of our fellow citizens come true and to fulfill our mission of building communities and building a nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Meledo. And we are indeed reminded today, ladies and gentlemen, that housing requires partnership and collaboration, and most importantly, that the NHT has various avenues and opportunities for partnership with our developers, whether it's through our guaranteed purchase program or developers program, as you just heard about, or our small developers partnership program recently announced by Prime Minister Holness. that we will, of course, share more details on, all in the business, as Mr. Melhedo says, of increasing housing opportunities for Jamaicans. Thank you again, sir. Our next speaker is Member of Parliament for St. James East Central, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, who I am sure is very happy to see the NHT in his constituency yet again. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome to the lectern at this time, the Honorable Edmund Bartlett.
Thank you so much. Wow, what a look. Am I to use that one?
That one has
sounds like a church business. Is on it. The pastor, you know, lay preachers use this one, right? Thank you so much, most honorable Prime Minister, my Prime Minister, my builder, and certainly the Prime Minister who will go down in history as having completed the most solutions for housing and for settlement in the history of this country. And I'm happy that East Central St. James is a recipient of that sort of a fulsome program by our Prime Minister. The chairman of the NHT, Mr. Linval, and it's nice to have you in East Central again. I mean, the last time I saw you was Union Acres. You're making a habit of these things, and it satisfies me when you bring Martin with you, and, you know, it feels like something is about to happen that is not just for East Central, but is for also the workers of the tourism industry. The Prime Minister will say more about these things, so my speech is very short. I want to use the opportunity, Peter and Joe, to thank you for partnering with the NHT and for delivering the number of solutions that you have for East Central St. James. I must tell you that when this is completed, you would have done a little over 4,000 housing solutions in the single constituency of East Central St. James. And you know, Prime Minister, I quipped a while ago to Peter and said, do not entertain any thought of running down here. But this development for us is historic in many ways. It is also symptomatic of how the people of Jamaica have really now taken to the places where in the past the plantocracy had reigned and had their domain. Barrett Hall was a good example of this. A little way down the road as you drove up, you would have seen the Greenwood Great House. And that was the house of Elizabeth Barrett Browning and the Barrett family. And they owned all of these lands along this escarpment all the way back to Barrett Town. And the name sounds so close to a name that you know, don't you think? We'll not say anything more about that. Not another word about that. But just to say, Prime Minister, that the development here works neatly in the wider development in the area, particularly for the development of the tourism product in the Rose Hall area. You know that in another few weeks, we will break ground again for another mega hotel beside the one that is there now. So we will have something in the region, Prime Minister, of about 10,000 hotel rooms in this area. That means 30,000 workers with demand for housing. And so this 1,500 and at Grange Pen with your sister company HAJ, we are looking at 1,620. We will have a little over 3,000 units right in this area. Then we have Spot Valley with another 500 units that you are working with another team to deliver. And then we already have Edmund Ridge, and we already have Rhine Park, and we already have other areas around. So when we are finished, we are going to be creating, Prime Minister, the new tourism innovation city of the Caribbean right here in the eastern side of Montego Bay. And I'm excited about the Member of Parliament that will spearhead that. And Prime Minister, I always say to my team, give me a reason for the next term. And that's the reason. So, Prime Minister, I want to thank you for coming again, and of course, for always having East Central in your mind. And the development in the constituency has been really heightened under your Prime Ministership. And I say this with a great degree of pride, and Prime Minister, a lot of humility as well. Because under your leadership, this constituency is today a model constituency in Jamaica, and I thank you on behalf of all the people of East Central St. James. Prime Minister, welcome to the constituency, and NHT, continue the good work. We still have a few more acreage for you.
Thank you very much, Minister Bartlett. Thank you. Our musical performance this afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, comes from a school that has a little in common with the National Housing Trust. Both were founded in 1976, which makes Herbert Morrison Technical High School how old? Beat your chest, carry the one. There you have it, 49 years old. They are one of the very few high schools in Jamaica that boast a band. And if you were here earlier, you would know that them sound good, right? So good that they performed at Reggae Sumfest, and earlier this year, they won the first round of Jamaica's Best School Band competition, and I've been reliably informed they are through to the semifinals, which takes place this Sunday. They are 15 members strong, them groovy, and I promise you, you'll be rocking by the end of this performance. Ladies and gentlemen, the Herbert Morrison Technical High School.
Call me anytime. sing about a very eminent problem in Jamaica, right? That we struggle with as youths, right? Only a fool knows the secrets. Only he can reveal it. Your worst enemy could be your best friend, Bob Marley sing, and your best friend, your worst enemy. Best friend, I come to take your life, and the worst thing you could ever see. Teflon, how can a man where you are par with from ever and turn around be an enemy? Digital, we don't want a friend from them, cause them heart is full up of jealousy. The two of you used to share a bottle of juice, now you want to kill me for anything. What me say, oh you picture so innocent, what you want to be anchored. Enough of them say them are your friend when they check it out. Them is a different person. Them no one see a triple like them no one see a hey. Enough of them say them are your friend when they check it out. Them is a different person. Enough of them want to see a head back shell out. See him so my little friend got sell out. They want to see the sergeant unlock them out. Real man, real bad man, no muckle in a shot. Straight jeans, cut off foot pants. Everybody have the ass, so we get my clothes. Everybody have the ass, so we get my clothes. Hey, oh you put your son in a circle. Hey, where you want to be anchored? Oh you have to say you are my friend when you check it out. Them is a different person. Them don't want to see a triple life. Purr. No, you don't in a circle. Oh you have to say, hey, them line up on us, so I'm going to do it again. Hey, real bad man, no muckle in a shot. Red jeans, cut off foot pants. Everybody have the ass, so we get my clock. Everybody have the ass, tweet it again. Real bad man, no muckle in a shot. Straight jeans, cut off foot pants. Everybody have the ass, so we get my class. Ho, you bitches are innocent. Hey, where you want to be anchored? How you have to say you are my friend when you check it out? Them is a different person. Them no want to see a triple light burn. Them want me live my life in a burn. But NHT has my back and I know that I will be alright. Cause them people, dirty or bad mind people, watch everything that we do. Sit down and plan out. Remember what we do a while ago, me try to do it again. NHT, we know said them love we. NHT. Hey, NHT. We know that they real love we. NHT. We know say them real love we. NHT. We know say them real love we. NHT. Ready? So, well. NHT. You know say them love we. NHT. You know say them love we. Oh, you feel trust. I am certain. Yeah. Oh, you feel trust. I am certain. Where you want to be anchored? No for them say them are your friend when you check it out. Hey, them no want see you dribble like. Them want you live your life in a. No for them say them are your friend when you check it out. A NHT alone off your back, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Herbert Morrison Technical High School. Them give a Queen Ifrica. Them give a little Chronics. Sampled a little Adisha Palmer. And of course, another dub plate for NHT. So my digital team, please, the reel from this event, it must have one of the dub plates. You have two options, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for good talent and for a great all-around performance, both from the singers and also from the band as well. Big them up as well. And if you want more, Sunday, Edna Manley College for Visual and Performing Arts. They're in the semifinals of the Jamaica Best School Band Competition, so you can go out and support them. And now it is my pleasure to invite Prime Minister and Portfolio Minister with responsibility for the NHT to address us. He's had a busy day. I think this is probably your third stop today, sir, and your second NHT function for this week. So I'm sure you are quite happy to be busy and be busy by the NHT. Ladies and gentlemen, our keynote speaker this afternoon, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, Dwayne, for your usual masterful mastery of the ceremony, and Reverend Edmondo Souza for your prayers. We have with us here today the world-renowned Minister of Tourism, but his substantive role for which he will be acknowledged is as Member of Parliament for this area, the Member of Parliament for St. James East Central. Chairman Linval Freeman, Chairman of the Board of the NHT, His Worship the Mayor, Councillor Richard Vernon, Mayor of Montego Bay, man who is truly vested in ensuring that there is public order and cleanliness in the municipality of Montego Bay. I have with me here as well Mr. Joseph Matalon. Good to see you, Joe. And Mr. Peter Meledo, who addressed us earlier, both from West Indies Home Contractors Limited, and who have been exceptional partners in the construction of housing in Jamaica for a very, very, very long time. The Managing Director of the NHT, Martin Miller, along with the hard-working executive members, please accept my acknowledgement. We have, of course, many stakeholder representatives who are here in the audience, both public and private. And you will permit me to spare a few lines of acknowledgement for the Herbert Morrison High School Band. Talent abounds. If it is one regret that I have is that, I gave up learning to play an instrument. And I tried. My father gave me a harmonica. You know what that is, a mouth organ, as we call it. And I did pretty well on that, and then I abandoned it. And then I started on the guitar, and I was doing pretty well on that, and then I abandoned it. But who knows, maybe I'll take it back up. But it is so good to be able to play an instrument, and when I see these young people, particularly the all-boys band which played here, I was very, very impressed, and they have kind of stimulated me to maybe I should go and pick up an instrument for pastime. But the young ladies did exceptionally well on stage. Yes, how you for trust and you're not certain whether them are do behind curtain. But you came back quickly and said you can trust the NHT because the NHT has your back. Very good, very good, very good. Friends, today is a landmark occasion. Not only for the people of St. James, but for all Jamaicans who believe in the power of opportunity, equity, and progress. We gather here not merely to break ground on a housing development, but to signal something far greater, that government, private partners, and citizens are working together to make home ownership accessible for all Jamaicans. The Barrett Hall housing development is a symbol of our government's unwavering commitment to expanding opportunity, especially for those who need it most. This project, comprising 1,565 housing solutions, detached one-bedroom and two-bedroom units, as well as service lots, is part of a growing and coordinated push to meet the demand for affordable housing across the island. The Barrett Hall housing development is being executed under the National Housing Trust Developers Program, a mechanism designed to speed up the delivery of quality, affordable homes across Jamaica. Through this program, the NHT partners with experienced private developers, such as Wicon, to construct housing solutions on lands owned by the NHT. The developer executes the entire project from designs, approvals, and financing, right through to construction and handover. In return, at least 80% of the solutions are sold back to the NHT at an agreed price, ensuring affordability for contributors. Importantly, a minimum of 60% of these solutions must be affordable to the NHT's lowest income earners. That is not just a clause in a contract. It is a commitment to the working class families who keep this country going. The teachers, police officers, farmers, hospitality workers in particular, the tourism workers, who I'm sure will be eyeing this development very keenly. We are building for you. Indeed, we are building for all Jamaicans. I want to be clear about the government's commitment to affordable housing. 3 years ago, I gave a directive to the board of the NHT that their resources should be focused on what I describe as low income and affordable housing. I've added another term to describe the target market: achievable housing. So we're looking at low income, people who are earning minimum wage, just around or just above minimum wage. We're looking at affordable housing, and we have a certain price point in mind. I don't want to call the price point because each time I call a price point, you know, there is controversy about it. But we have a price point in mind that when we engage with the developers, we say to them, listen, based upon our market research, this is the price that is affordable to most income earners. And then we have a category which we call achievable. And the achievable housing really depends on how much the homeowner, the potential homeowner, is willing to save towards the house. You know, generally, the estimate is that you would want to put aside 30 to 35% of your income to be able to afford the recurrent payment on your home. Achievable housing, you may want to put aside a little bit more to get maybe a higher value or a higher price home. So it means that the struggle for the house for you might be a little harder, but you're willing to make the sacrifice. You're willing to trade off other consumables in your basket of goods for housing. But you can't put the price point too high, because then you will eliminate people who are very ambitious for their housing. So we want to keep the prices moderated. That is always a challenge in an open housing market, because the government can't, by dictate, set the price at which the houses should be sold. And of course, as I depart from my script, there are those of you who are experts on the housing market. And as the government wrestles with this issue of trying to ensure that the houses that we construct are affordable, and as we put more affordable housing on the market, what you also notice is that people who have higher incomes start to come into the affordable and low-income markets as well. So we face all kinds of dynamics. So we could be building houses here in this lovely property, and we are targeting these houses for low-income and affordable income. But when people see this lovely view, when people realize that it is so close to St. James, and that the weather is so cool and salubrious, they may say, well, this is the home for me, even though they could afford a higher home. But what that does, it displaces a unit for someone who is in the low income or affordable market. So the housing market is very, very complex, and we are trying to find all kinds of measures to ensure that we can satisfy demand. So this development will occupy close to 430 acres of land, and it is located just 2.5 kilometers south of the North Coast Highway and east of the Greenwood housing development. Now, the location is not accidental. It is strategic. Barrett Hall sits within reach of the growing tourism belt along the North Coast, giving homeowners access to jobs, education, and commerce. We are creating not only a place for people to live, but we are trying to create a vibrant, well-connected community where people can thrive. Let's take a moment to consider the features that will define this development. Each housing unit will include an open concept layout, basic built-in kitchen fixtures, a laundry area, and bathrooms designed for accessibility. The external design will incorporate modern architectural textures and volumes, reflecting a sense of pride and identity, and the infrastructure will be robust and comprehensive, with roads and sidewalks and signage, potable water system, stormwater drainage, centralized sewage treatment plant, and electrical distributions complete with streetlights. I'm not seeing here where they say swimming pool and jogging trail, but I'm saying it for the hearing of the developers. Maybe not the swimming pool, but certainly the jogging trail and playground for the children. So I've said it publicly now. We consider these features essential for dignified living. They're not luxuries. You know, we have to build today for not just the idea of shelter, but also for the idea of health. So let's just build that from the start. We want people to be able to live long enough to enjoy their homes. So when we build what we consider to be the necessities, especially in communities, we must have a park for the children to play. We can't have them all locked to their screens and on computers. We have to get them out. You know, when we were growing up, our parents have to call us in. The children who are growing up now, you have to send them out. But you have to have somewhere to send them to that is safe and that you have equipment there that will challenge them to exercise. So I'm directing Martin that you work on the amenities to include the park for the children to play, and a jogging trail for the homeowners to get at least 30 minutes of vigorous exercise per day. With such a large project as this one, you can anticipate that there will be a significant boost to the local economy, starting with the employment of skilled and unskilled labor. But you notice that when these sites are up, you have people who have to provide food, security, and of course, the people who supply the material. So this is not just about the homeowners, this is about boosting the economy of the area. Now, we have to situate Barrett Hall in a broader context. Today's event is one of many groundbreaking ceremonies we will hold across the island as part of an ambitious housing agenda. Just this month, I broke ground for 1,758 units in Mount Nelson in Manchester, and that is just one of 12 active projects now at contract or construction stage, representing 11,322 housing solutions across Jamaica. And these include Dry Valley in Trelawney, 1,560 units, Brampton Farms in St. Catherine, 2,000 units, Longville Park Pen in Clarendon, 2,077 units, Roselle in St. Thomas, 660 units, Spot Valley right here in St. James, 418 units, and there are several others which I won't name. But in planning and design, which we have currently underway, is another 10,598 solutions, including 5,000 in Longville Phase 4 in Clarendon. Over the next 2 years, we will commence construction, therefore, on over 19,500 housing solutions island-wide. We are not just meeting demand by calling out numbers, we are meeting the demand by supporting the construction and developer section of the housing market. Developers have told us that while the NHT's 5% mobilization advance is useful, it often doesn't go far enough, especially given that civil infrastructure can account for up to 25% of project costs. And that is why we are revising the financing framework for both the developers and the guaranteed purchasers program. So going forward, in addition to the 5% mobilization advance, the NHT will provide an additional 20% in the developers program and 15% under the guaranteed purchase program to reimburse developers as they achieve infrastructure milestones. This will ease the cash flow burden and reduce delays. It's important that I mention this because as the competition for your minds heats up and we get into the promising season, promises will be made which will suggest that horses can fly. And I've heard several, especially in housing. 2 years ago, I gave a direction to the National Land Agency, the Sugar Company of Jamaica, the Ministry of Agriculture, and indeed several government entities that own government lands. The reason why I did that is that I wanted to find out what lands do we have in the government portfolio that we could bring into housing and give it to the person who is buying the house? In other words, to take away the cost of the land from the house. So we went through a comprehensive exercise, and I have a portfolio of about 2,000 acres of land split up all over Jamaica, owned by various entities, that we could put into construction of housing and not charge for the cost of the land in the housing. It is an idea that we're still reflecting on, because the question would be the equity issue. How do we determine who gets that value in land? Is it just the people who can afford to buy the house? So if you can afford to buy the house, then you get that subsidy written off in land. So there's an equity issue which we have to work out in our minds from a policy perspective, how we address that. Other people aren't concerned with equity. They make wishes and promises. Then there is the issue of what would really be the value that would be subtracted from the total cost of the house in land. And as it turns out, it's not that significant. The developers will tell you that, especially if you're dealing with government land, it's not going to be that significant. And it really depends on the land that you have and the location where the land is. As it turns out, the lands that we have immediate access to, that we own, that we could use, much of it is marginal. In other words, the lands that we could do that with, that we own, that we wouldn't have to go and purchase, we have it on our books already, much of it is marginal. Meaning, it is on the periphery of an estate that is already developed. It is going up into hillsides and rocky terrain, or it is extremely remote, which would mean that you would have to put infrastructure to get there in order for it to be used. So where should we direct our efforts right away then, if that is not something that you can bring to maturity right now? The efforts really ought to be directed at how do you get the infrastructure cost for housing down? Because the infrastructure cost is about 25% of the total cost of the house. And how do you get the infrastructure cost down? Well, that's a difficult one, because it requires government to put up a great deal of subsidy. When you're talking about sewage plants, water supply systems, drainage, and roadway infrastructure. I mean, it's one thing to have the cost of the roadway in the development absorbed into the house. It's another thing now when you have to consider building a road to the development, and then to put that cost on the house that is going to be purchased. Then there are other issues as well when it comes to infrastructure, particularly when you're dealing with climate change. And you have to now meet certain standards to address 100-year events which are now happening with greater frequency and intensity. So the level of infrastructure that you're required to build is much higher today than, let's say, 50 years ago. And then there is another problem with the infrastructure. Depending on the size of the housing development, the infrastructure costs can be reduced on a per unit basis. But we do not have, right across Jamaica, the size of lots and development areas available that would reduce the per unit cost of infrastructure. And therefore, you would see that some of the projects that we are declaring here today would be small developments a 400-acre development like this one, it sounds like many units, 1,500, but it is really very small. For us to bring infrastructure costs down and bring the average cost of the unit down, we need to be producing many, many more houses on larger plots of land. And that is why we did the Bernard Lodge Master Development Plan, where we found it's not a novel solution. This is what is practiced all over the world, where the developers put up an infrastructure cost, all the developers share the infrastructure cost, government took the cost of the master planning, and we put in all the infrastructure at once, and then all the developers do is go plug and play. They are just building. And those costs will be moderated. And then we have announced recently a similar project to the Bernard Lodge project, which is now called the Greater Innswood Development, where a master plan will be done there for all the small developments that are in that area. But we're also going to cooperate on doing the infrastructure to bring that infrastructure cost down with government support, which will include government's budgetary support in some instances. And these are some of the things that we have to do to address the real issues that impact housing. So as I say, it's good in the promising season that people are going to tell you that they're going to give you horses that can fly. But you have to be very careful of those promises. Study them carefully. Look at the real facts and the real constraints. Because at the end of the day, should you believe that horses can fly and you accept that promise, you will be greatly disappointed. The reality is that your administration, this government, has put in place all the possible measures that balance the fiscal responsibility, the environmental concerns, the land availability, the market conditions, and the housing financing to come up with what I would consider to be the optimum solutions. So, for example, if infrastructure issues create a problem for developers, particularly in terms of the cost of financing it, then the way in which the NHT can deal with that is as I have announced. Instead of giving you a 5% mobilization because you have to do the infrastructure development up front, so we will give you more in terms of mobilization so that you can adequately undertake the infrastructure development. Because what I have noticed as a Minister of Housing and I have seen is that when the developers start and they run into financial problems, particularly at the infrastructure phase, and then the project drags out, what you see happen is that the escalation and the increases get added at the end. So we don't want that to impact the cost of housing, and therefore what we have decided to do is to support the developers with greater financing upfront so that they can very quickly complete the infrastructure undertaking that they need. These are the kinds of practical, real solutions that ensure that you can have the delivery of housing. Recently, I announced another innovation, which we call the Small Developers Program. And I want to take a little bit of time here, since I have you captive and you appear to be still interested in what I'm saying, to explain what that is. So we have approximately 150,000 houses needed in Jamaica. So there's a deficit. You don't need it all at one time, but when you do the projections up to 5 years from now, it's about 150,000 shortfall. The private sector is going fairly well. At the higher end of the housing market, I would even say that there may be an oversupply. So the private market for the higher end is doing very well. Where we have a challenge is the private market supplying the lower end. And therefore, it's not a market failure, really. It's just the nature of the market. And therefore, the government has to play a role. And government can play a role by financing, as we have done, and we have taken some creative ways to finance developers so that they can bring houses in the lower end. And I should here say that not all developers want to participate in the lower end of the housing market. In fact, we have a challenge right there because it's low margins, high risk. And so I want to commend Wicon for a large corporate entity for recognizing that, you know, people believe that the NHT builds the house. The NHT is not designed to build houses. The NHT is a financing entity. And what it does, it has to have partners like Wicon. And we need partners like Wicon that have the advanced skills to manage development at scale. In fact, we need more persons, more corporate entities like Wicon who can manage housing developments at scale. I'd love to see the day when I'm announcing 10,000 houses being built all at once. But we don't have that capacity and capability just yet. We're building towards it. And so I take the opportunity to recognize and thank Wicon. I know it's not an easy road, not an easy road. And I see Martin, the managing director of NHT, is laughing. It's a private joke. But there have been many times when I've had to intercede and say to, you know, my friends at Wicon, we understand, you know, understand and work with us. Because, you know, Wicon needs to make a profit and NHT needs to protect the contributors' funds. And the two things don't always work together, so you have to find a middle ground. And then there is policy. So we set policy, but by the time you go to execute, what you're executing may run into conflict with policy, and there has to be a constant revision of, okay, what's the threshold that we set? What's the minimum standard that we set? At the end of the day, however, you have given us the authority to exercise certain discretions and follow certain rules to be able to deliver the housing that you want. It's not as simple as people believe. It's quite complex, but I believe that we have a good formula, and across the table negotiating with government are persons who have Jamaica's best interests at heart, and I want to commend Wicon for being at the table with us with the NHT. Because this would be, in recent time, about your third or fourth major development, and your second in St. James. And the one that you have done before has done quite well in St. James. So the Small Developers Program is designed to deal with, I hate to use the term brownfield, but the large developers usually take on greenfield developments like this, land, and you have to go and put in infrastructure. But right across Jamaica, and in particular Kingston and St. Andrew, and in particular downtown Kingston, there are many communities that were built just like how this community is going to be built. And they were residential, high-value residential communities 30, 40, 50 years ago. The owners have died, children have migrated, people have abandoned the property, and urban blight is setting in. Now, those properties can be redeveloped, but you're not going to get the development singularly, meaning on one road somebody say, all right, I'm going to redevelop my property, and then 2 roads over somebody. What you really need is a critical mass. And so what the NHT is going to do with the Small Developers Program is to work within a cluster, within an area, get the people who own the properties together to say, if you were all to come together and pool your properties together, we could develop this into multifamily structures and you could take back out the value of your property several times over in these developments. The beauty of it is that the infrastructure already exists. The roads are already cut. The pipes are already laid. They may need to be changed. They are in close proximity to sewage. The electricity poles and wires are already there. In other words, the Small Developers Program is designed to assist with urban renewal and bring home solutions, shelter solutions, closer to where the economic activity exists. And so these are the kinds of solutions that we have to bring to the table. This is not a horse, but believe me, it will fly. So let me remind you that from the 1st of July 2025, deposit requirements for contributors earning less than $30,000 weekly will be reduced from 5% to 2% for open market purchases under $14 million. This is not a horse that can fly. This is a real commitment that is made effective the 1st of July. This will be very helpful to persons seeking to purchase homes. Service charges will drop to 0 for contributors in that same income band, meaning persons earning less than $30,000 per week, and 2% for those earning up to $42,000 weekly. Again, this is a real incentive that will impact low-income earners. The Home Grant program will now be available to contributors earning up to $30,000 weekly with a maximum grant of $3.5 million. Again, another tangible benefit, not a wish, not a promise, not a dream. Come the 1st of July this year, this will be available. Now, we know that some contributors have taken loans to build homes, but due to rising costs, have been unable to complete them. For those earning less than $30,000 weekly, the NHT will now offer either an additional loan up to the difference between their current balance and an $11 million cap, or a home grant up to $3.5 million to help bringing the home to completion, especially for pensioners or others who cannot take on more debt. And this is very important. So the housing market is not just persons who are seeking to purchase. We also know that there are many persons who have purchased and have probably started construction or started improvement, and they are not able to finish. So they have the house burden on them. They can't live in the incomplete structure. They're still paying rent. So they're not able to fully enjoy a new home. So what the NHT is doing, considering the real practical situation, they will provide you with a loan, cap of up to $11 million, subject to our income affordability, or if not, we'll consider you for the home grant of $3.5 million. Again, a practical way in which the NHT has your back and is ensuring that you can have shelter. We're also targeting various sectors through the Targeted Institutional Loan Program. We will be providing housing for public health workers, starting with the University Hospital and one rural hospital. So we're going to, the University of the West Indies, for example, has land, and we will provide them with the financing to build housing solutions for the people who work at the hospitals. Again, another creative solution to provide targeted relief to persons seeking homes. We're going to do the same thing for tourism. The TEF, has some resources, but we are going to be partnering with them to provide housing solutions for the tourism workers. By the way, this development, I'm sure, will be an enclave for tourism workers. we are expanding the loan limits. As of July 1, individual loans will move from 7.5 million to 9 million. For 2 co-applicants, it will move from 15 million to 17 million. And for 3 applicants, from 21 million to 23 million. And this is very helpful in terms of being able to meet what the cost of the homes are now. We notice, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, that whenever we increase the loan limits, somehow the prices for the homes also move. And what we have done this time around, and as we did the last time, is to put in a disincentive for developers to unfairly and unjustifiably moving their price. And what we have said is, if you are building, what we will do now, Martin, remind me of what that figure is. That if you're purchasing a home that is at a particular price point, the new loan limit will be higher. Remind me what that new limit is. So if your house is what, in the $14 million range, right. So what we have done now is that if you're purchasing a home that is in the $14 million range, you can get $12 million as the loan limit. So in other words, what we have done is to skew the individual loan limit in favor of houses whose prices are lower. Just again to ensure that low-income earners get a fair chance of purchasing their home. Remember what I said earlier, that as we try to control the prices, people with higher income are going to purchase houses that are lower than their income band, and that will squeeze out the low-income owners. So we have to be very creative as we go about providing the financing for housing. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of this reinforces the simple truth. We are not only building homes, but we are ensuring that there is equity in housing ownership in the society. Equity is important. When you're making policy, there are some things that instinctively sound good. Give every young person a 500,000 grant to own their home. And then I get a call, Prime Minister, so you're going to give middle-aged people too? Because we deserve it too. We have been there in the market longer hoping to get a house. That's a question of equity. They might not say anything publicly because it sounds good. We really should help young people. But there are those thinking, boy, I've been here in the housing market so long, can't make my deposit. What about me? And that's it. These are the questions of equity, fairness. And when public officials start to make promises without looking at not just the fiscal costs, meaning the monetary costs that come with it, without also looking at the equity issues, right? It creates a sense of unfairness in the society. And so, whenever we are trying to, as I said, prepare the goodie basket, we have to look very carefully at what we present to the electorate. Not just what sounds good and is sweet to the ear, but we also want it to be healthy long term for the country and for the citizenry, that it is fair and just. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are building an equitable housing market, and we are trying to create as many opportunities for you to own your own home. And what we are doing here in this lovely, lovely location, if you could see the vista behind me of the very blue Caribbean Sea. A part of it looked green too, if you just look closer to the shore. But it's very beautiful. And I'm sure everybody's going to want to make here their new home. So I close by thanking all who have contributed to bringing us to this moment, the teams at the NHT, WICON, our ministry and agency, and the people of St. James. Together, let us keep building forward, one unit, one family, one community at a time. Thank you. May God bless you all, and always choose Jamaica. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Thank you for that presentation. A timely reminder that we build not just for today, we build for the future, and of course, we build for health. And of course, a reminder as to the impact of housing in a community that is more than just transformative for the new homeowners, but for the business community and the general environment. The economy of the area also stands to benefit. And thanks for your insight and highlighting some of the discussions taking place behind the scenes as to the innovation and the new ideas and strategies and solutions that we're bringing to the housing market to indeed make home ownership possible. Let me invite you back to the stage, Prime Minister. The community wants to leave with you a gift, so I do believe there are 2 presentations to be made to you. I think Pastor Reverend Souza has one. It's on this side, sir. And the Citizens Association for the area, they also want to make a presentation to you to tell you thanks for your presence here today. And I'll allow you to return to the stage, Prime Minister. While I ask the representative for the other presentation to also make their way.
NHT, WICON, and this community. Okay. As for me and Jamaica, we will serve the Lord. Excellent. And in His presence, we shall be the head and not the tail, above and not beneath, and we will not be a cocoon, but a butterfly. And indeed, we will fly. Put your hands together.
And the second presentation from the Citizens Association and also
Association, on behalf of the Greenwood Citizens Association, we want to make this small token to you. We are happy to have you here.
This is lovely.
Yes.
Mrs. Holness will love this. She's
Okay.
a lovely person.
And this is from the Greenwood Plaza.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you. So at this time, it's time for a groundbreaking exercise, and our groundbreaking exercise will take place to my left. And as we get the individuals robed, the persons participating
Yeah, talk to you. Be clear.